A very good day to all of you out there. This is Admav here with another episode of Admav's Corner. First off, I would like to say I hope you all are doing very well and that this podcast is a safe space for you to open up and discuss whatever's in your heart. I myself am doing pretty okay this week. Just as usual, there's some high points and some low points. Though admittedly, recently, I've been feeling a lot of low points. Kind of been feeling more depressed. Been on that side of the scale a little bit more. Wasn't sure why, to be honest. There's been a lot of good stuff going on lately. This past weekend, we had a get-together at my best friend's place. They haven't had anyone over since they moved into their new place. And so it was it was unofficially a housewarming. And it was great seeing everybody, seeing all the friends that I've known essentially my whole life. And it was a great time. I think I'm trying to think of a way to word this very specifically and very carefully. A lot of the joy and the positivity that I've experienced this week was a result of partaking in that get-together. It was excellent food, even more excellent company with the people there. It was a great time. It was a fun time. We had an opportunity to just let loose a bit, smoke 3 joints in the backyard on the deck. Those nice summer evenings, man. I just love them. They're some of my favorite times. It's just summer nights. So it was a great time, but also because of how I am and because of my nature, there are also some things that I kind of got sad about. That sort of triggered a bit of a depressive episode, if I'm being totally and completely honest. And I just like to say ahead of time again that these are just my personal experiences. I'm not an expert. I would never tout being an expert. I'm just talking about how I perceive things, how I feel things, and how I personally deal with them. And I'm not saying that they're necessarily the right way or the correct way. They're the ways that work for me. And I'm still open to better ways because I'm sure there are things that I do that can be improved upon and that I can be better with. That said, the depressing feelings that I felt were not a result of anyone or anything that anyone did. It just all stems from me and the way I see things and the way I think. So, this sounds all a bit cryptic. So I'll be a bit more specific. I was sort of confronted with, well, not confronted, but I was sort of presented with the whole concept of a relationship again. Because, my group of friends, there's very few of us left that are single. I'm one of those few. I am single. So, I don't have a partner currently. Everyone else sort of does. And it always brings a smile to my heart seeing how happy everyone is with their person. And I mentioned last week that one of my other best friends recently went through a tough time going through a breakup, and I can understand that. And I hope they're doing better. I know they're doing better. but it's a long road. It's a difficult road, and it's often not a straight path. It's not a straight road. So, but I know they're gonna hang in there and be strong. There was one particular friend that I don't see very often. I only see them whenever we have big gatherings like this. And they're great, and I love them as well. But I don't see them as often as I wish I could, and I don't know them as well as the other friends in our group. Even though I've known this person since high school. And during that night at the get together, a few of us were chilling in the basement. We had the desktop vape going, and we were just listening to Spotify. We were queuing up songs. We were all contributing to the music being played, and it was such an awesome time. It's one of the, to me anyway, it's one of the best things that to do. Just chilling, getting a little high, and listening to some great music. Listening to your own music, listening to your friends' music, connecting in this weird, intangible, special way. And I had noticed something. The friend that I mentioned earlier that I've known since high school, and that I said I wish I could have, I wish that I've had or could have more opportunities to hang out with them, and also wish that I know them more than I do now, because I know almost all of my friends quite well, but I wish I knew this friend better. And they recently got engaged with their partner, and I was chuffed, super happy, super excited. So during this hangout session in the basement, and this person, I also respect them because of their taste in music, and they're also an avid music fan. Loves going to concerts, just like me. Even though our taste in music somewhat varies, but there are some similarities. In this case, they picked a song by O Wonder. O Wonder is an English duet musical group. They make really sweet songs. It's a husband and wife, and they make really, really sweet songs. Some could say overly saccharine, and but it works for them because they're so sincere, because they love each other so much, and their feelings for each other and their emotions for each other sing. They soar in the songs that they make, and this friend, he chose one of their songs, and it's not that I don't think they listen to songs like that. I know they do, but it's different this time, because this is the first time I've seen them with their SO in sort of a chill atmosphere where they could just relax and enjoy the company of everyone, but also enjoy the company of each other. And I saw them being sweet and affectionate with their partner. And sorry again, I know I'm using a lot of like neutral terms here. I just don't want to be too specific because I want them to have their privacy. This is more about me and my experience and stuff. So I don't need to specify. But they were being sweet and they were being affectionate with their partner. And I've never seen this before. Not from them anyway, And granted, I wish that I knew them better. And maybe they've always been like this. But this is the first time I'm seeing it, and it sort of reminded me. No, not even sort of. It straight up reminded me of how beautiful and how indescribably magical. I'm using whimsical terms, I know, but I really don't know how else to describe it. But it just reminded me that how beautiful and magical love really is. How love can be like that, and how I felt that once, and how much I miss that, and how much I feel like that's missing in my life. Yes, the theme and everything that I've been talking about in all these past podcasts, these past 3 episodes, I mean, all about the self-love and self-care. I do have that. I don't hate on me. I love me. I accept me. Yet there's still a yearning, and there's still this inexplicable sort of vacant spot in my heart. A spot that I hope someday is claimed by my person. If I am to have a person, if I am to be with that person. And so, a lot of mixed feelings, a lot of mixed feelings, a lot of the great memories and great feelings that I've previously experienced when I was in love, and a lot of the heartbreak, and a lot of the sting that I felt. Even though, the sting isn't as intense anymore, it never really truly goes away. The scars are there. My heart bears those scars. And so I've been thinking about it a lot. And unfortunately, one of the side effects is that I've gotten a little depressive about it. I've even been dreaming about exes, which I normally don't. But the way that I've been trying to do this podcast is I want to talk about what's been going on in the past week since the previous podcast, and I can't avoid it. This has been in my periphery, I mean, the last month I've been, or more than a month, I think, like a month and a half, I've been back on the dating apps, earnestly trying to get to know people and trying to see if someone out there is for me. I'm just like any other person. I have that yearning, I have that feeling, and I want to find my person. I'm not rushing, I know that. I'm not trying to force anything. I'm actually taking it kind of slow, but you know, in my weaker moments, it really does feel frustrating, and it sucks feeling like the third wheel whenever I spend time with my closest friends because they're all paired off. And sometimes I feel like I just get in the way of that. And sometimes I wish I had that. But I just have to keep faith. I have to keep believing in myself. I just have to keep loving myself. And whatever happens, happens. I know that. But still, it really made me reflect on love and relationships. And it made me reflect on the past. Because I'm kind of what people call a late bloomer. I'll be completely honest with you, and I hope anyone who's listening to this that have had similar experiences can resonate and find a bit of solace. Because trust me, I'm a late bloomer. Okay, I mean technically I didn't have a girlfriend until I was 30. Yes, my first girlfriend was at 30 years old. And funnily enough, that first one was the train wreck. And it's not the first time, but it wasn't the first time, obviously, that I've attempted to get into a relationship or the first time I've fallen for somebody. But it's the first actual relationship that I was a part of, that I was serious with, and that I was invested in, and all that stuff. And so, for this podcast, or for the next few podcasts, I think I'm going to focus on that and talking about the women in my life, romantically anyway, the women that I've had romantic feelings for. Because when I started to really reflect this week, all the major ones have really taught me something about life and about myself that have made me a better person, that have made me a better man, a more mature man. And I've just gone through a lot of growth because of these relationships. And so I thought it would be good to disseminate that, to talk about that, and to share that even though you go through these experiences with feelings, with love, with relationships, even though it ends badly, I believe anyway, okay, you can tell me that I'm wrong, but I believe there's almost always anyway, something to take away from that, something to learn from that. And that's absolutely how I feel about those relationships in my life. So this is sort of this whole, I realize I've been rambling a bit here, but this is all sort of an introduction to this upcoming, I guess, I'm going to call it like a series of admavs, relationships, romantic relationships. So I don't even really know where to start, I guess. I mean, I guess I'll start, like, I want to set a good foundation for this series. So there's context for all the stories that I'm going to share in the upcoming 2 or 3 episodes. So what better way to start than... Actually, before I start, I have to say that I'm not a relationship expert. I don't want, like, I'm not giving advice on love and romantic relationships. I mean, it would take what you will from this and from the upcoming episodes of this podcast, but I'm definitely not that. I'm just a guy trying to figure it all out, just like many of you currently are. So, yeah, what better starting point than to talk about when I was a kid, I actually, I was really young. I mentioned that I was a late bloomer, but I actually was very, very young when I first realized I had feelings and I was attracted to girls, to women. In fact, I can remember my first crush ever. Ever. I can remember because when I felt those, like, feelings of attraction, I wasn't sure exactly what that is. And, a lot of you psychologists or armchair psychologists out there will talk about, Freud and stuff like that. But my first crush was when I was in grade 1 and had, like, the sweetest teacher. I was still in Kuwait back then because I spent my childhood in Kuwait. And this was in an English school, and it was an Indian English school. So my teacher was Indian, and I really had a huge crush on her. I remember, like, I didn't even know what to do with it. I just know that I liked her. I liked being around her, and I just wanted to spend time being around her. Like, I liked being in school. I liked being in class. So I was in grade 1. I was like, what, 6 years old? And I was feeling that. I remember, man. and then the following year, when I went I moved to another school. It was also another international school, but there was a lot of I think it was still, like, Indian run. I also liked my teacher there. I'm not sure why, but I remember very clearly. I remember, and it's funny because in the next school that I moved to, is when I actually developed my first crush on someone, okay, my age now this time, like not just, not the teacher, like actually my age, this girl, this Filipino girl. And and I don't remember much about her. I just remember thinking she was really cute. And I had a classmate that I was good friends with. And this is the first time I actually experienced competition over liking a girl, because he, for whatever I don't even really know if he liked her or not, but he found out that I did, and we sort of got into this like argument and shouting match, and it ended in blows. We actually ended up fighting over this girl. She must have been so confused. I mean, gosh, we were 7 years old. Like, who knew what the hell they were doing, at that age? We just knew that we liked this person. We wanted to spend time with this person, and we couldn't stand the idea of the other taking attention away from her, or taking attention away from me. I mean, rather. So yeah, we fought over it, and I remember when I came home that day, I told my mom, I was like, "This is the worst day of my life." I remember so clearly. I remember saying those words verbatim in English, telling my mom, "This is the worst day of my life." And I remember she was just laughing about it with her girlfriends, because it's a 7-year-old kid. She thought it was cute, but I wish I got a bit more emotional support then, so I could process it better, because I'm sure that in one way or another that really affected my outlook in life and courting girls. But let's move swiftly on, because this is not the serious stuff yet. Okay? So I didn't really have another serious crush until grade 6. Grade 6, that's when, like, I was like 10 years old. Like 10 turning 11, or I was already 11 at the time, but this was right before moving to Canada. But anyway, I liked this girl. And I kind of understood a little bit about what that means now at that age. And I remember I was like, I gotta find a way to try to get her to like me. So what I did was I wrote a secret admirer letter by hand in a letter. And I remember everyone was crazy about Pokemon that time, and so was she. And I was like, my plan was, okay, I'm going to give her a gift. Like, dude, I was like 10. I didn't have any money, but I was super into Pokemon, and I had a Pikachu watch. And Pikachu back then was the shit. So I put the watch and the letter carefully into an envelope. And I was like, okay, I'm going to put it in her bag when she's not looking, because I was too scared. I'm sure a lot of you can relate. That first time you're really scared. I mean, not even the first time, like it's still nerve wracking sometimes. Like, even when you're an adult trying to date, like, it's scary to ask somebody out, or to admit that you have some kind of feelings for them, and that you would like to know if they'd like to explore that with you. But yeah, I put it in her bag, or at least what I thought was her bag, because one of my friends, he was like sort of more like a school chum. He wasn't like really a close friend of mine, but I put it in his bag because he had the exact same freaking bag as hers. And then I had to scramble and explain. I was like, dude, I'm so sorry. I put a thing in your bag. Like, it was a totally big mistake, And I got, fortunately I got it back and I put it in the right bag. But I remember the wait. I was dreading her reaction the next day. I was so nervous, I remember. And this was kind of a big deal. And let me tell you why this was kind of a big deal in school back then. Because it was a small community. My parents knew the teachers. My parents knew I liked this girl. The teachers knew I liked this girl. So everyone was in on this. My classmates knew. You know how it is back in school when they find out that you like someone, all the oohs and ahs. I experienced that. And it was awkward because I don't think she also I don't think she knew how to respond to that either. She was receptive, but at that age she was also still trying to figure out what that meant. I was trying to figure out like how how it is to be like in, in courting or in dating with somebody. Oh man. I just remember we were nice to each other and didn't really end up going out on dates or anything like that. We spent a lot of time in school and bought her ice cream one time, stuff like that. Kid stuff, young love type stuff. And that all got abruptly cut short because in a few months' time, it was off to the true north, strong and free. We were moving to Canada permanently. And so I didn't really get to explore that and learn what it meant to be in a relationship, and that sort of got cut short. And to this day, I still think that's a big deal because it kind of prevented me from going through that experience and learning how to be in a relationship, learning how to court a girl or a woman that you like, and couple that with moving to a completely new country with a different set of cultures and all, different set of values and stuff like that, a completely different culture. I had a difficult time adjusting. I really did, and it didn't matter if I liked the girl or not. I didn't like them seriously enough to want to consider asking them out. I mean, my first elementary school here in Canada, there was a dance, right? Everyone remembers those. I never experienced a dance prior. This was the first time. And shout out to all my elementary school friends who some of them I still talk to this day. I remember they were trying to figure out how to do it too, how to talk to girls, how to date a girl, etc. Because I remember we were all close, we were all kind of nerdy, Dungeons and Dragons, Yu-Gi-Oh, video games. Man, at that age, that was like, at that time, the early 2000s, that was a death sentence socially. You're on the outskirts. But I remember we were like, we huddled, made a plan, and you're like, oh, okay, so this is what we're gonna do. Okay, we're gonna split. We're not gonna hang out with each other. We're gonna talk to a girl that we like. We're gonna ask them to dance. And I remember how bizarre it was. We were at the gym. All my closest friends at the time, the people that I was comfortable with, they were all avoiding. We weren't talking to each other during the dance. Everyone was running around. Everyone was weird. I was like, yo, what's going on? And then he would just look at me and then he'd run off into another direction. It was weird, So that didn't help. that didn't help. So, man, was I awkward growing up from elementary school, even into high school, which is what I want to talk about next. Because in high school was definitely hard. That was tough, dude. High school was difficult. That's when awkwardness was in full bloom. Thankfully, I was mostly an invisible guy there. No one really noticed me. No one really knew I existed back in high school, and I'm glad about that. I'd rather be invisible than the person who gets picked on all the time, butt of the joke. I'd rather not. But I'm trying to move along here. By the way, I'm really condensing all the stuff that I went through in my life, as far as romantically anyway, and liking girls and all that. So in high school, grade 10 specifically, I remember the first time I saw the next girl I was crushing on. I'm trying to think of a name. I just just an alias so I can easily just use it interchangeably when I tell the story. So, okay, let's call her I. So she was drop dead gorgeous. She was, I don't like using this because it's kind of a bit objectifying women, but you know how it was back in that era of high school. So, for lack of a better phrase, she was the hottest girl in high school. She was it. She was the girl. I was the girl. She was half Filipino, half Croatian. She was beautiful. I was completely smitten. But as you can imagine, as the hottest girl, the most like she was the queen, right? Socially. And I'm not sure if I was even in a tier. I didn't exist. I was invisible. I was just there, like in the shadows, you know? I went for it. But here's a problem, and this is why I'm laying down some context, because the way I did it was the only way that I knew how. Can you take a guess? I wrote a letter, a secret admirer letter with a really bad anime drawing of I in it. And I was watching, like, where her locker is every time like in the morning, to see like where her locker was at, just so that I could time putting it in there while she wasn't looking, because I didn't want her to know. Because my idiot plan was to wait until prom, until after graduation, before I revealed myself like a goddamn teen, the stupid romance teen movie. Like, I was like, okay, here's what I'm gonna do, because I've been dealing with weight issues all my life. Even back in high school, I was a bit chub. So my plan was to, like, I'm gonna lose the chubs between grade 10 and grade 12. When I come out to tell her that it's me, and I'll be in good shape, and then we'll be in, she'll be my girlfriend. It's so cringy. I'm not, I'm okay talking about it now and sharing it, because it's so silly, and I'm sure a lot of people out there also have these stories that they're, terrified to tell because of how embarrassing it is. But whatever, it's part of my history. What are you gonna do? You got to own up to it, and that's what I did. And it was awful. It was embarrassing. We chatted through MSN Messenger. Shout out to anyone who remembers MSN Messenger. And it was okay at first. We were chatting, and it was nice. And I couldn't believe I was, having, I was talking, even though it was just on chat. I was having, an actual conversation with I. This is the girl, and I was like, man, this is panning out. No, it didn't pan out. Not at all. Not even close. Because her best friend, who was also half Filipino, kind of was kind of like a bodyguard type. Let's just say that. Let's use that term. She was kind of a bodyguard to her, and she added me as well with my fake ass like email that I used. So I didn't have to use my real email to message with her. And she was grilling me, man. She was really grilling me, making sure I wasn't some creep. And good on her, That's, good friends do that for each other. But man, I freaked out, because as this went along and I was refusing to give up my identity, they really, like, that clique, the cool clique that she hung out with, really started to try to hunt whoever this guy was, and her best friend, the one who added me also, was starting to tell me, like, scary. Well, to me, it was scary then, because he was like, we know the principal, and we're going to get the security footage, and we're going to find out who put this letter in her locker. And I got really scared. Not more, less because of the repercussions it might have on me, like, academically, in a scholarly sense. It was more of the social implications, and, being smoked out, and all the cool people just making fun of me. Or I was even afraid I might get, like, ganged up on and beat up or something. That's just the reality of what high school is, right? And it all turned out to be a big nothing. I remember the following year in grade 11, she finally figured out who I was after a process of elimination. And I remember she walked up to me in calculus, or it wasn't calculus. It was grade 11 math. I forget what the exact name of the course was. I remember she just walked up to me and she was like, "Oh, are you blah, blah, blah? Are you admav?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, and she smiles and she's like, "Nice to meet you." Walks away. And then from that point on, it just became, it normalized. I became invisible again, which is kind of cool, because I didn't have to face, that crowd that she was in. They didn't have to bother me. But yeah, I as I was and have always been in high school, I just returned back to the shadows and continued to be invisible. And it would be a long time before I would have feelings for somebody seriously again. And I mean, we're talking a long time. We're talking about, high school 2006. That's when I, stopped sort of pursuing that thing with I because, there was nothing left to pursue. I mean, it was over. It's just not, I'm not going to say like, league. I don't believe in that crap, but it's just in the social circles we're in, it was just not going to work. And how I was at the time, there was no way. There's just no chance. So that was like 2006. And it would take another 8 years before I would attempt to, you know, court a girl again. And flash forward to 2014, one of my mom's old friends from Kuwait, who now resides in the UK, their family was coming over to visit Canada, and they hadn't seen each other for years. And my mom's friend her daughter was coming along. Her daughter, half Filipino, half British. You know what? I'm just gonna come out and say it: half Filipino plus whatever else, or just half Asian plus whatever else in general. That they make beautiful people. Everyone's beautiful, by the way. Okay, like don't get all up in arms. Everyone's beautiful, but just for me, preference wise, they're just they're just pretty people. You know. But anyways, I digress. So yeah, this girl, let's call her let's call her I don't know. I don't know. I actually don't know what I'm freezing up right now. Uh let's call her Cynthia. That's far from what her actual name is. So I just can't think of a name. So Cynthia, she was funny. She loved making jokes, very British. I was completely smitten by her. And I was like, I think I'm gonna go for this. But because again, all I know is how like this approach where I don't approach things directly. I approach things from the side. I mean, albeit this time is a little bit more direct, but it was still something like, we spent a week with their family, and we hung out a lot. We took them around, and when they left and flew back to the UK, that's when I messaged her. That's when I was like, I like you, and blah blah blah. And I'm sure she was like, what the hell? Like you're telling me this now after I've left and all that, and like how do you even know if you really like me? We only spent I don't want to go into it, but yeah, I understand her point. But this crush I had on her lasted for like the next 2 years, to be honest. It was like on and off because we would still communicate, and she gave me like mixed signals because one time while she was in college, she called me like drunk, like saying that she was thinking about me and she wanted to call me. So what am I supposed to do with that sort of information? I thought like maybe there was like an unspoken thing going on and maybe there was some kind of connection, but I later found out in 2016 that, I mean, like, cuz in 2016 I kind of like had my final like confession sort of thing, and I told her how I felt. She said she doesn't have those feelings and that we should be friends. Yeah, I was heartbroken a bit, but I have to move on, whatever. But after that, I think it may have been, yeah, it was still the same year. She finally admitted to me that she was kind of messing around and playing with my emotions, and I felt bad. So none of it is real. The only thing I thought was like I thought it was real. To me, it was real. I thought there was something developing, but she knew that there was nothing the whole time, and she played with me because she knew that I thought there was something, and it was not a good thing that she did, and it was immature of her. But I know she didn't do it on purpose. She didn't do it on purpose. I don't blame her. I don't hold a grudge towards her, and she's happy now in her relationship. So I wish her the best. Cynthia, I wish you the best. And everybody else that I've talked about today. All right. We are at the 40-minute mark. So I think I'm going to stop here, because the next one will be the first real big one that really affected me. And so we'll save that for next week, because we're at the 40-minute mark now. And it's been a long conversation. If there's anything that you could take away from this, I guess, is that learning to be in a relationship, learning what a relationship is, or knowing what those feelings are, whether it's like infatuation, love, puppy love, all that, it's a foreign feeling. It's a weird, strange, but wonderful feeling. And as a kid, you don't know what that is. And at the time when you first start feeling those things, you don't realize how much of a journey it's going to be to even have any kind of understanding or grasp of it. I mean, people go their whole lives trying to really understand it, and they only understand parts of it. Imagine how it's like first discovering it and not knowing the enormity of this thing called love. Not knowing what that is, not knowing what a relationship is. But you just know that you like it, and you start walking towards it. You start trying to figure out how to be a part of it. And as you've heard the past 40 minutes, it's been really tricky for me. So I can't wait to talk about the next few ones, because those ones really, not that these are also important. These are formative. And I wanted to lay the foundation, right? So that on the next episode, you could really sort of understand my history when it comes to this. So, I don't have much of a, outro or some kind of nice words or advice exiting. Not that I even want to give advice. So I just want to end with this. This is the 4th episode of Admav's Corner, which marks the 4th week that I've been doing this, which marks 1 month of podcasts. I never thought I'd be able to do it. But here I am. And I just want to express my gratitude to everyone, to every single one of you, no matter how few, no matter how many. I want to express my gratitude to you for listening, for giving this a listen, for finding some of these stories interesting, or finding something useful that you can, take into consideration within your own life, within your own lives. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It brings me so much joy, and I feel the love. And I wouldn't have gone this far without your support. So thank you, and I hope to see you again in the future. Can't wait to hear from y'all, and I can't wait till the next installment of Admav's Corner. Until then, I want you all to have an amazing weekend and an amazing week. Take care.